A word from our sponsors. Philo Ads brings performance-focused CTV advertising to brands of every size. With over 900 million ad impressions each month, no minimum spend, and a brand-safe environment, Philo Ads makes it easy to scale your campaigns with confidence. Ready to see how Philo Ads can work for you? Head to ads.philo.tv. That's ads.philo.tv to get started today. A word from our sponsors. You measured incrementality. Great. Now what? You know what worked, what didn't, maybe even what was cannibalizing your organic. But turning that insights into actual decisions, that's where most marketers get stuck. Incremental doesn't just measure incrementality. They help you operationalize it, shift budgets, pause wasteful campaigns, double down where it actually matters. No tracking, no experiments, just always on, automated truth. So if you're done measuring for the sake of measuring and ready to act, visit Incremental, the future of measurement, because knowing is only half the battle. Go to incremental.com. That's INCRMNTAL.com. Welcome to the AdTechGod Pod, your window into the world of advertising technology and the people behind it. I'm your host, AdTechGod. Welcome to the AdTechGod Pod, where we are joined by the retail media experts of our industry. Today, I'm joined by Elizabeth Donovan, SVP, Global Head of Commerce and Retail Media Networks at Kineso, Acxiom IPG. Prior to Kineso, Elizabeth spent 5.5 years at Marriott Media Networks, AccuWeather, and Discovery. She's truly an expert in the retail media space, and I'm looking forward to meeting her, learning about her prior experiences, and what the industry has to look forward to as it relates to retail media overall. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me, ATG. It's my pleasure.
And I have to say, I love the photo you posted wearing the hat with the Beat TV. I think it was a zip up from Beat TV, and it was a AdTechGod hat. So thanks for doing that. That was great.
Yeah, you kept me dry in the rain. That's for sure. Thank you so much.
It. I'm sending you more merch. I'll send you a voucher for more merch. You can post that anytime you want.
I'll post it everywhere. It'll be like ATG instead of like Flat Stanley. We could have, I'll bring you wherever I go.
Amazing. You have truly an incredible background. So although you've only recently joined Kineso, Marriott Media Network for 5.5 years, AccuWeather, I think for 8 years. Can you just give me a little bit about your background? What kind of enticed you to get into the retail media space overall, especially so early on with Marriott? And then we can take it from there.
I always get this question, especially more so now that I went on to the agency side supporting Acxiom IPG. So early in my career, I was always a hunter. I always loved the thrill of the sale, right? I started out as like sales enablement, account management. I just would love to see creativity at its finest aligned with curation, data, et cetera. So for me, I always read the trades in the morning. It's all about starting the day, right? So when you're like, how did you get into retail commerce media early? I'm looking at the trends, right? And I've always been that first mover. Started my career in cable at Discovery, and then more channels were emerging, digital, programmatic, et cetera. I had a great leader from Discovery, Vincent McDonald, who went over to AccuWeather. And he's like, Elizabeth, you should really check out going into programmatic. From there, AccuWeather did a great job at really supporting my growth from starting in account management, then being in sales, and then leading sales and technology. By the time I left AccuWeather, I was really first to market with how first-party data solutions marry that together with, the data architects to, for example, get out the vote or how weather impacts your health. So working with partners like CVS, et cetera. Funny thing, that's how I met Amy Owen and got my resume to IPG, which is incredible. But when I had the opportunity when Marriott reached out to me to create something, top line revenue, focusing on personalization and how to enhance the customer experience, it was a no-brainer for me to enter this space because one, they have the scale and they have the loyalty programs. And that's really the foundation of retail and commerce networks. And we speak a lot about this on stage, but this community is strong. So we're all pioneers. We were all learning together as how to build this out. I'm part of the Ascendant Network, which really brought all of our RMN and commerce teams together. We learned a lot together, what worked, what didn't work, and we're continuing to thrive. But when this role opened up at IPG, I thought it was written in the stars for me. I said, wow, a way for myself to help the industry move forward. I'm kind of like a unicorn because I've led sales. I've created products. I built technology infrastructures, always was programmatic first, but then always data driven because that's at the core of everything the retailer or loyalty, et cetera, partners are looking to do to create not only an experience that'll enhance the customer, but also bring top line revenue in. So that's how I got here. And I'm so excited to be here. I've been here almost 6 months and the industry is changing and I'm supporting, and my team is just phenomenal.
Elizabeth, just a question for you. How does Kinesso in particular position itself in market to your various clients and people that you work with?
So especially in the retail and commerce space, I was hired specifically to support the retail and commerce networks, from consulting, from builds to actually managing networks as well as monetization. So when you're thinking about, the whole picture, so Amy Owen leads an amazing commerce group focused working with all our brands and commerce partners. And when you think about my role, it's really focused on how can we drive those data outcomes, create and make sure that our groups are data ready. When brands are coming to market, especially the new RMN and commerce networks, they may not necessarily have all their data ready for activation, measurement, et cetera. So my group is really focused on ensuring that they're ready to run on their own and operated channels as well as offsite opportunities. Really thinking about how we can build and support new technology, infrastructures, and growth, aligning that 360 approach within the agency. So think about it as the network side, supporting the networks, but also the brands and making sure that they're reaching the opportunistic and the right customer at the right time. And that's the beauty of Kinesso, thinking about technology, the support from data, from Acxiom side, as well as activation.
Okay. So in essence, you guys are the retail media experts. You're able to provide your insights to your clients and help them really understand what the right methodology is, what the right strategy is for them to roll out their retail media.
Absolutely.
Amazing. When you look at where things were with the Marriott Media Network going on almost 6 years ago and how things are at Kinesso today, have you seen this huge transformation in the market? There's obviously been a huge buzz around retail media and commerce media overall. How has that really impacted your drive and your conversations with your clients?
I think we have to meet our clients where they are, right? As you know, there's like 240 retail and commerce networks, and they're still emerging, which they have a right to win. They have incredible first-party data. They have their own owned and operated channels like their .com, their email, their app, in-flight entertainment, so digital out of home. So they have amazing ways to reach customers where they are through their purchase journey. It's funny because the way that the industry is moving, it's moving so quickly, but it's really just media. And it's a way that we're personalizing and making sure that you're receiving the right tools and measurement solutions to go out and market. And I think that's something we pride ourselves in, that we have the technology interoperable solutions. We have a way to support owned and operated. But then when you're thinking about the brand itself and how you're going to market. So we're focused not only on the retail media network, but the brands that are part of those retail media networks. We want to make sure that it's being additive to the customer experience. And that's what I think, most retail media network and commerce media networks are doing right. When they're focusing on the customer and getting that right first party data, they have a really good right to win.
Totally. Are you finding that retail media, which I think historically has been a little bit more bottom of the funnel, are you finding that the full funnel retail media strategy is something that is resonating with your clients and in the market overall?
I absolutely do think that. I think we have seen, obviously when retailers are going to market and when commerce media networks are going to market, they're really focusing on, obviously from a retail one, they're focused on their merchandisers and those partners and how shopper marketing dollars goes into that JBP. But when we're thinking about commerce media networks, you're thinking about the loyal partners that you've had over the years. So whether it's travel, if it's a hotel, and the connections between rideshare, their airline partners, it's just a way to enhance the customer experience and bring value back. So if you can solve that in a way that doesn't feel like you're shoving ads down people's throats, there's a lot to be said on giving back to the client or the customer.
And sorry, I'm just throwing a bunch of questions at you because generally I'm interested in retail media, and I think
it's okay.
The amount of first party data out there, it's super powerful. And now retail media, from I think the initial perspective was we are using our first party data, and now it's expanded beyond that into, how do we work with in-store activations and signage, and how do we do anything off-site, whether that's running across various sites in a greater network or commerce media. What's a really positive trend that you're seeing the market overall move towards, considering this massive growth that we've seen in retail media over the last, 24, 36 months?
I think that, especially from the lens looking from Acxiom and my role, we're really focused on supporting our brands and clients to be data ready. And with that comes confidence, making sure, we'd like to say privacy by design, but making sure that they're comfortable with these activations and operating in more of outside of walled gardens, being, connecting more with partner matches and where their data is accessible and ready to go to market. So I think brands are getting more comfortable, especially legacy brands that have been around 50, 100 years. They're seeing that this is an opportunity for them to help personalize their owned and operated, but also have expansive reach and being able to fuel other elements of digital out of home, in store, in flight, etc. And that's what gets me really excited, because all that first party data will then translate into a better experience. And then that's when I think publishers and other partners, you're going to see more collaboration come through for content and streaming and social. So that's what keeps me up at night, those kind of partnerships on how to, make the industry evolve, but in a way that you want to consume that media.
This podcast is brought to you by XD. Looking to get more from every impression? Meet XD, the outcome-based media platform built for results. Powered by proprietary agentic AI, XD doesn't guess, it knows. By analyzing over 30 real-time data signals across billions of daily impressions, XD predicts and automates what works and eliminates what doesn't. The result? Media campaigns tailored to your KPIs, optimized in real time for performance, efficiency, and scale. Whether you're a marketer chasing ROI or a publisher looking to boost yield, XD's custom-built decisioning models will work for you. XD, predict, perform, repeat. That's EXTE, XD.
I feel like there are times that I look at retail media and I think about retail media and I poke a little bit of fun towards it. But when I think about the overall marketing funnel, from top of funnel all the way down to bottom of funnel strategies, it really is just a smarter way to utilize first party data to target the audience you want with the right messaging at the right time is how I view it. And considering the challenges that we have in measurement overall, that seems to be addressed and solved with retail media, just because of its proximity to the end user, its proximity to the actual product and the conversion. A lot of the vagueness that happens in online advertising and performance kind of goes away.
Right, because you're able to connect to that person by their location, right? or meet them where they are. It could be by the actual property or their retail store, right? So if you know where they are, you know more about those demographics and what you should be sharing from that data standpoint. Like stores will then, be able to carry different products in that, may serve differently in Manhattan compared to maybe Minnesota.
Here's a question for you, Elizabeth. And I've asked this to a few of the real female leaders in the space. How has it been for you as a woman in the space to grow so much over the period of your career, to lead up a large team at Kineso, at an agency, at Marriott, rolling out products? You mentioned prior that, I'm a go-getter. I just do it. I just go after the deal. I go after the product that I want to roll out. How has that played a big role in your transformation into an executive at a major agency?
I think about this question because I've been doing a lot of soul searching. So you're getting me on a very emotional day after. So yesterday was the anniversary of my dad's passing. He's an immigrant who came here from Czech. He had not a lot of money coming to America. He didn't speak the language. He learned to speak the language and he went to school at night. He went to Baruch College. My mother also went to Baruch, and she comes from a line of very strong, driven women. And I think a lot of my background stems from the way I was raised and the ethics. Like, even though my dad did great, he became, he was part of Wall Street. He then decided to go out on his own and work and become a jeweler and be in the diamond district. My mother, retired as an accountant in a very male leading organization for it was like the Home Depot of Canada. It's called Richelieu. And that was very male driven for all of those types of products, et cetera. So, but when my dad, what he did was he came from nothing. He really showed me, what it's like to work really hard, but you have to be creative about how you're going to market yourself. So as a woman, especially leading sales early in my career, the early 2000s were a lot different than they are now. I had to go above and beyond, not only with my thinking, but, stay late. I stayed late a lot of nights, always. And I still, I struggle with the work-life balance because I'm just so excited about my work, but I show my team, that work-life balance. But going back to why. So I started to work when I was 13, 14 at a restaurant. My parents didn't just throw things to me, despite me growing up in a beautiful home in Queens, having no needs or wants. So my parents did that heavy lifting, but they always made me work. So in college, I had 2 to 3 jobs at once. They didn't pay those bills for me, right? I always had to pay my own bills, which I think is a great thing to learn about, because they didn't give it to me easy just because they could. But in the industry, I would say for women, especially, I'm part of a lot of women's organizations. I'm on the board of the Women's Alliance in Media. I'm the vice president and co-chair for social. And I've been she runs it about a decade. So it's really important for me to send the elevator down. I think we learn from our best bosses and our worst bosses. And I've been lucky enough to have male and female allies throughout my career. And even to this day, managers that I have had over the years, they're cheering for me. They are always showing up to my speaking engagements, or they're even how can we partner? Because they've remembered how I've always delivered for them. And I think people take that for granted. Those relationships that you build and those that you have learned from, you really need to cultivate that at all levels. So I like to even learn from mentees. So I always take on a few mentees a year. And I feel like I learned so much as well.
It's really inspirational because hearing the background where you come from, I think it's important. When people look at their upbringing and the work ethic and the drive, I think people are innately born with drive and motivation, but it's really sometimes just the ability to take what you saw and what you experienced and say, I either want to step it up one more level and be better, or I don't want to struggle the way I struggled or my parents struggled. For my situation, I grew up, I would say middle class. But I had a father that was absolutely adamant that at one point it was done. Like, you got to go live your life. And when that happened, I think initially it was a bit of a shock to me that suddenly it was like, look, you got to go figure it out on your own, son. Like, it's over. But it motivated me to work hard and just figure it out. And he jokes and says, I'm a cat with 9 lives. Like, if I've been laid off, I land on my feet. If the job sucks, I land on my feet. If I can't close a deal or can't get a product rolled out, I figure it out. It's that upbringing and drive that you get from your parents. But it's different for me because I'm a male in a predominantly male dominant industry. You're a woman. And I think there is more challenges for women in the space. And especially hearing what I heard about in Cannes, I'm hoping that, that doesn't ever happen again. But what I'm hoping is that, women continue to lift each other up with all these organizations that have been put together.
It's really, I would say, women like me are continuing to lift other women up. And we just have to do more of that. But I've had amazing male allies who support me and my work and my team's work. And it's just really great. But I think if I could solicit free advice, I would tell people, like, don't dream small. So that was put in your heart for a reason. But the way you have to get to where you want to be is to show up every day and do your best work. There are no shortcuts to life. Like, I think about this too, because I'm also a mother of 2 daughters and they're watching me. And it's very important for me to show them that, you know what, I'm a kick-ass mom. I take you to the beach and we go on trips and you've traveled, but I also have to do things for work that may take me away from my children. But that's okay because they understand that I'm doing it for the benefit of our entire family. And they'll look back and say, wow, it wasn't always the quantity of time, but it was the quality of time. So really be present in your work when you're there and be present when you're in your home environment. That could be anything. It doesn't mean necessarily having children, but it could be with your sisters or, if you're a pet mom or dad. I think we too much just are distracted by, technology from the sense of like doom scrolling and other things. But for me, I love to connect with nature and be present and go hiking. That I think is making tremendous impact on my children and those guardrails that I put around our home time together.
Do you hope that your kids enter the advertising industry? Because I like the industry overall. Like, I think it has its challenges and sometimes it's a little stressful, but I would actually like my kids to be in the industry. I know some people would say no, but do you find that the advertising industry kind of pulled you in and that you'd like that for your kids, or are you hoping that maybe they do something totally different?
I think I want them to do whatever sparks their interest. While I love this industry, data, technology, sales, building opportunity, one of my children, she loves to read and write 24/7. So I'm excited to see what she'd be interested in. And the other one is very, very sharp and witty. So she's still too young to say, but I support them no matter what they'd like to do. Obviously, this is a wonderful career and it's constantly evolving. So who knows? Maybe they'll be like AI agents. Who knows what that'll look like then? But as long as they have this spark in their heart and they want to continue to be a good person and drive their future forward, I'll support that.
Amazing. Amazing. I have one that wants to be a lawyer. They constantly argue with me. And I think
that
it's perfect.
He or she will be a good lawyer.
I'm like, this is perfect for you. You like to read and you will love it. Just let me just guide you on which one pays the best. And then
exactly.
The other one is still like, I want to be a vet. And I'm like, hey, you can be a vet. But, I've heard that before too from the first one. So same thing. But I just, I do like the advertising industry. I think I built a pretty strong network and I have a lot of my friends in the industry. So if they decide to, then I'm like, you guys are set up. Like, just let me know. I'll make some intros after college.
That's awesome.
What you mentioned, you work hard. There's time away from your family. on a personal level, how do you keep yourself balanced? How do you keep yourself happy day to day? I know it can also often get very difficult, but how do you keep yourself motivated every day to move forward and just do your absolute best, like you had mentioned?
Well, I would say I've been in the sandwich generation now, right? So, recently taking care of my father who passed away from pancreatic cancer, but my mother has had an illness for on and off for the last 5 to 10 years. So that is one thing. You're in the middle of, from my perspective, I'm a caretaker to my children. I have a husband who has a very demanding job. So our schedules are like really opposite. And then caring for loved ones. So what I've been doing, and this has been like an evolution of self-care for me. One, I have like my own board of directors. I have a group of women and men and friends that I could tap into to support me just like through a text, right? I think Simon Sinek said it really well, like that 8 seconds, like phone a friend. I do that. And then for me, like I give myself, and it might sound corny, but I give myself an hour a day to do whatever I want with no interruptions. Sometimes that could be read a book. Sometimes that's going hiking. Other times that's getting margaritas with my old colleagues.
Right.
But it's that conscious choice to show up for everyone, but also don't forget to show up for myself.
Amazing. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you to Kineso, Acxiom IPG for having you here. I'm really looking forward to talking to you soon. And if anybody's listening, she does have a podcast. Check it out. She posted on LinkedIn. Elizabeth, what's the name again?
Unlocked with Austin and Elizabeth.
That's it. So if you want to listen, check it out.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and talk soon.
Talk soon.
Rebrands, makeovers, and takeovers are the themes for this week's advertising news. I'm Kate with Marketecture, and welcome to The Refresh, your weekly download on what went down in advertising. Today is Tuesday, August 26th, and this week on The Refresh, we're covering Target's Q2 earnings report, MSNBC's rebrand, and Nexstar acquiring Tegna. So let's get into it. After another disappointing earnings report, Target is making big promises to make some big changes to help them once again be known and beloved by their customers as Target. Their most recent Q2 earnings beat analyst and Wall Street expectations, but still left them feeling disappointed as numbers were generally down year over year. The big box retailer brought in $25.2 billion in revenue during the quarter compared to an expected $24.9 billion. This was still down 0.9% year over year from the $25.45 billion in revenue they generated during the same period in 2024. Comparable sales, also known as same-store sales, which include both in-store and online purchases, were down 1.9%. Alongside this, overall customer transactions were down 1.3% and transaction value was down 0.6%. On the other hand, digital comparable sales were a bright spot for Target. These were up 4.3% year over year. Another bright spot for Target was in their non-merchandise revenues, which includes their Roundel ads business, third-party marketplace, and membership programs. This business saw big gains with revenues up 14.2% year over year during the same period. A lackluster in-store experience combined with boycotts of the retailer after they pulled back from DEI programs and in-store efforts like their Pride collection are big drivers of decreased store traffic and, as a result, sales. Data from Placer AI found that foot traffic to Target stores has declined every single week since January. It's really no surprise then that Target finally announced that CEO Brian Cornell would be stepping down and his right-hand man, COO Michael Fidalke, would be stepping up to the plate in February of 2026. This change in leadership may have been a long time coming, but many, including Wall Street, hoped that an outsider would take on the role to truly shake things up. Or, some might say, add some diversity. Typically, the COO and CEO work hand in hand, leading to speculation over whether Fidalke will enact big enough changes to get Target out of the red. He briefly laid out his vision for Target's future on last Wednesday's earnings call, which fell into 3 core pillars: merchandising, an elevated in-store experience, and technology. Fidalke emphasized that Target focused too much on core products following the pandemic and lost their notorious flair for stylish, trendy products and joyful in-store and online experiences. He also acknowledged that the company as a whole has been slow to adopt technology that would allow them to better manage supply chains and the guest experience from end to end. On the call, he mentioned they recently deployed 10,000 AI licenses to assist with various tasks, including forecasting. Can Target become Target once again? Right now, they appear to have a long way to go to regain customer and employee trust. A recent Wall Street Journal report found that 40% of employees weren't confident in the company's future. And customers? Well, we kind of know how they feel. The evidence is in those earnings numbers. Regardless, expect to see Extreme Home Makeover Target's version coming to a store near you. Next up, MSNBC is losing its Peacock and undergoing a major rebrand in the wake of its split from NBC Universal into spin-off company Versant. Moving forward, the channel will be known as MS Now, which is short for My Source News Opinion World. MSNBC isn't the only one getting a new look, though. Versant CEO Mark Lazarus confirmed that while NBCU will retain rights to its iconic Peacock logo, MS Now and other channels will roll out new logos and visual identities to differentiate these properties from those that NBCU will retain. As an example, USA Network will merge with the Golf Channel under the name USA Sports. CNBC will also get a new identity as it uses that Peacock logo. Any major rebrand, particularly one that has an actual name change, looking at you, Twitter to X, raises some serious eyebrows and concerns around retaining brand value. The MS Now rebrand is no exception, not just because of the decades spent building both brand equity and recognition among consumers, but because the name itself is confusing and the design is lacking. MS is often associated with Microsoft or multiple sclerosis, and I'm no expert, but I'm not sure you want to be associating news so closely with opinion. MSNBC President Rebecca Cutler seems to be well aware of these concerns. She emphasized that they'd be making a major investment in awareness, promising a broad-based marketing campaign unlike anything we have done in recent memory. Whether that campaign is successful or not, the network risks losing carefully cultivated brand equity, particularly at a time when trust in media and clear brand recognition are more vital than ever. Finally, TV consolidation is getting loco and local. Local TV giant Nexstar has struck a deal to acquire its rival Tegna for $6.2 billion, creating what will be the largest local TV conglomerate in the U.S. The deal still needs to clear the FCC, but pending it gets the go-ahead there, Nexstar would gain control of 265 television stations in 44 states and Washington, D.C. On the Tegna side, they currently control 64 TV stations and overlap with Nexstar in 35 market areas. That overlap could open the deal to regulatory scrutiny, as critics of the deal say it would eliminate the current competition in those markets and give Nexstar too much control over local TV as a whole. Nexstar CEO Perry Sook spoke to some of the potential criticism of the deal in a CNBC interview, saying they were trying to compete with the likes of big tech giants like Meta and Google, as well as legacy big media companies who have, quote, unchecked reach and vast financial resources, end quote. He also addressed concerns that too much control by local TV owners over local stations could result in certain programming or content being mandated by those owners. Mr. Sook responded by saying they don't dictate content and, quote, no one's handed a script and said, here, read this, and it goes across all the markets in which we operate, end quote. Nexstar wasn't the only one who is eyeing Tegna. The Wall Street Journal reported earlier last week that another rival, Sinclair, has also reportedly proposed a merger. It sounds like they may have lost this one, but Sinclair stated earlier this month that its board had authorized a review of its broadcast business, including potential sales, acquisitions, or spinoffs. TV consolidation is happening across the board, especially in the traditional TV space. Local TV stands to see an increase in deal-making given the current environment of deregulation, including a recent ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th District that relaxed rules that barred one company from owning 2 of the top 4 TV stations in any given market. The FCC is also revealing a rule that limits ownership of TV stations that, in aggregate, would reach more than 39% of the country. And as it stands right now, the Nexstar-Tegna merger would very likely exceed that. All in all, expect to see more TV pieces moving around in this looser regulatory environment. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining us for the refresh, and we'll catch you next week.